Good evening, everyone. So, we are meeting again for the session on how to decode cue cards. And I really want all of you to write down your comments, your doubts, your problems, so that we can discuss about cue cards and whatever problem you face while you are attempting cue cards. Okay? Now, since there was some technical issue in the 5 p.m. class, so we are here again back at 5:35 p.m. discussing about cue cards. Okay, so let's begin with our anthem. Let's crack it. Because here at Unacademy, we believe in cracking up all the problems, in solving all the problems which are there. So let's crack it. My name is Aastha. I'm an educator at Unacademy. Okay, so today we are going to discuss how to decode cue cards. Okay, now in order to decode something, we must know what that thing is, right? So what are cue cards? Now, cue card question in IELTS is a part of the speaking test module, right? Now this is actually the second of the three tasks. There are three tasks in IELTS speaking. The second one is cue card, and you have to complete obviously for appearing, while appearing for the test. And these tests require a host of skills developed over time to be able to tackle them effectively, and the least of which include being able to think on your feet. Definitely. Now, what does part 2 test? Number 1, it tests your ability to talk about a topic. Number 2, how you develop your ideas about a topic. And number 3, how relevant vocabulary and grammar you use. So these three aspects are there which are tested in part 2 of the IELTS speaking module. What all is there in it? Now, the first thing, the basic thing, the examiner will give the task card with some written prompts. We'll just practice some examples of task card, cue cards. We'll be more clear about it. So the examiner gives a task card. Number 1, the examiner will ask you to talk about the topic and include the points that you can cover in your talk. The topic is about a personal experience. Okay, now before that, you will be given 1 minute to prepare your talk, and you will be given a pencil, a paper to make notes. Remember, you will not, and you cannot, and you should not write on the task card. So it means you must talk for 1 to 2 minutes about the topic. And what will help you in that? Your practice, your earlier knowledge, earlier practice, previous steps of studying, your tips and tricks, and the notes which you have prepared during that 1 minute. So that 1 minute is very, very crucial for you all. Okay, and then the examiner will ask you 1 or 2 more questions on the same topic, which comprise of the later part. Now, things you should prepare for before your exam, before cue card specifically. Practice making notes within a minute. This is extremely important. The 1 minute you get before you start speaking is critical. You need to learn how to use this time. You can use the following techniques to practice. Underline important words in each cue card. In each cue you have important words, underline the keywords. Yes, highlighting keywords is one important strategy throughout IELTS, whether it's listening, whether it's reading, whether it's writing or reading. Okay? So when you get a question, when you get a task card, underline important keywords. And then you write 2-3 keywords against that topic. So what you're doing, you're actually building up that point. You start with the roots and you're building up the branches and the fruits, right? So this is really important technique you must practice. Number 2, practice speaking for at least 3 to 4 minutes at length. Now, if you can think this will be easy, then your mind is actually fooling you into believing, right? Why? Because when you are speaking out loud on a topic, you just don't realize how quickly you feel short of words. So I always advise my students to practice speaking for at least 3 to 4 minutes at length, because there would be a lot of hindrances, a lot of nervous twitches, a lot of breakdowns during the test. So if you have the practice of speaking at length, and that too with a stopwatch, you will be able to speak fluently, coherently and logically over there. And next is very important aspect, record what you say to listen to your intonation and cohesiveness later. When you listen to yourself, you realize how you spoke. Were you very dull? Were you very excited? Were you very quick in expressing yourself? Were your ideas cohesive, means were they logically linked together? Okay? And if your thoughts are scattered, your flow will be broken. Okay? So that's very important. The third aspect is practice speaking in front of the mirror to see what your body language conveys. Yes, when you stand in front of mirror, you understand how you are acting out, how your eyebrows are moving, how your body is moving, whether you have the habit of using your hands, or is it just you sit straight and don't move at all. Okay, so because examiner is also gauging your comfort level with the language, that's why probably IELTS is not yet purely online. Okay, so whether you have those sweaty palms, or you have nervous twitches, or you're making out some gulping sounds while being nervous, you will figure it out in advance, and you will be having time to work upon it, right? So you do not need to know everything, but you have to be confident in whatever you do know. So smile, breathe and speak like you mean it. That is the strategy. Okay? Number 4, find out all the recent cue card questions. And I'm waiting for some questions to pop in so that we can discuss the answers, and so we can discuss the doubts which are there side by side. So many people seem to be online, so I really want everyone to quickly come up with the different doubts and question answers, and let's make this class more and more interactive. And yes, students, if you're watching this class even after the live session gets over, no worries, you can put down your comments, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn profile, on Unacademy profile, or here you can comment, okay, so that I can answer to your questions related to cue cards. Number 4, find out all the recent cue card questions which are there on the internet. Yes, internet is the biggest resource these days. Don't undermine its ability. Search the net to list out the year's topics that students have faced in the speaking test part 2. This will not only help you anticipate, but will also help you build a vocabulary around the topics. So building vocabulary around the topics is extremely important. Okay, for example, when you are asked to talk about your family, words like parents, siblings, maternal grandfather, okay, all those words such as uncle, aunt, niece, nephew, so all these words should be part of your list. You should be knowing how to address different people in your family. That's really important. You just can't sit and keep on thinking at that moment that what is that person called in a relationship. Okay, so when you're talking about, say, words related to topic, you have to focus on different topics which are prevalent, which are important, which are crucial, and then make a family tree of the words and then practice them. The next one, things you should avoid during the exam. Now, the first one is pausing. Now, although pausing look like very desirable virtue among the intellects, like you just stop, you think about it, and you say, okay, I wanted to say, and then you took a pause. It was considered, but when you're taking IELTS, it is not. Reason being, one simple plain logic behind it is because you have time limit. Yes, since you are having a time limit, you cannot just sit and pause. Imagine the vivas you people had taken when you were kids in the school. You hardly paused at that time, you hardly reflected on life at that time. So you cannot compare the situations when you are sitting and reflecting upon your life. You are considered to be intellect, you just think, you ponder more and you verbalize your thoughts. But when you're speaking on a topic, and that too when when you've got a task card, it is not much favored over here to take pauses. So you have a time to make notes. One quick suggestion is make notes in a sequential fashion. If they are in one sequence, you will be able to quickly relate to them, build upon one after the another. Now, how does it come? It will not come directly on the day of the test. You have to practice it. So this relates to the first one, practice making notes. Yes, if you make the notes in a sequential fashion, you will not pause because you know what you're speaking, or you will be able to predict what you're going to speak. So once you're done, you have to just refer to the piece of paper, okay? And then your flow of speech comes out. And it has been a proven fact that pausing for long has actually led to reductions in the band in the past. Number 6, answering in one word or short sentences. Now this is a big no. When you are given a topic, you are actually expected to speak for a minimum of 2 minutes, even if the question can be answered in 30 seconds. Okay? It is your task to expand the talk, to include the things that you were not asked. Okay? And you have to speak even if you feel there is no need to tell about it. Right? So this is actually one crucial thing to be kept in mind. Examiner is actually not interested in knowing about your personal life. Examiner is not interested in knowing about what you like, what you dislike, or which school were you studying in, but he or she will definitely be interested in how you're able to expand, talk, connect. So actually you're using different parts of speech. You are showing off your language abilities, and that's the task. Number 7, there should be no sign of inconfidence. Okay, you cannot show that you're not confident, such as cannot show with your through your body postures. You cannot slouch, slump, or you can tap the surface or take repeated breaths. These are signs you're not confident. You cannot bite your nails. Little things go a long way. So even if you're experiencing anxieties and emotions, you have to train yourself to cope up with it. You cannot just portray it explicitly, because examiner can still pardon a slip of tongue. If the candidate looks very confident in her or his skills, you can always smile, and get away with some things. So before you begin to answer a question, take a deep breath and exhale. Center yourself, clear your brain of panicky thoughts, and begin. So there should be no sign of inconfidence while you are talking, while you're talking to examiner. You are expressing what you are, sharing your opinions upon the topic which is there on the task card. Now this is one sample cue card. The card contains this question: describe an interesting talk or lecture you have heard or attended to. You should say who was the speaker, when and where you heard or attended it, what it was about, and you have to explain why you think it was interesting. Okay? So now there's one sample answer for this. Well, I take a great deal of interest in the climate change that has been affecting our planet for centuries. So whenever there is a talk or lecture on climate change, I seldom miss it, whether it is discussed in a seminar or broadcasted on the National Geographic channel. So, when I came to know about such a lecture on global warming to be addressed by one of the most notable NASA scientists, I was quite excited. The lecture was broadcasted about 2 years ago on the National Geographic TV channel. Now, what have I done? I have given a good long introduction over here. The lecture methodically tried to highlight the damages on our Earth caused by global warming and climate change. The very learned and distinguished lecturer presented the effects of greenhouse gases while saying how the Antarctic and the Greenland ice sheets were melting. What was the question? Who was the speaker? We have answered that. When and where you heard or attended it. I'm answering both. What it was about and explain why you think it was interesting. So my last two questions are still left. So I'm here. Okay. Sea level was rising around the world, as well as how the wildlife was on the verge of becoming extinct because of an extreme weather pattern. Before ending his lecture, the distinguished scientist did not forget to warn us as to how the future fate of our planet hung on the balance if we did not take immediate measures to slow the global warming caused by us greedy humans. Indicating the extreme weather events such as El Nino, the lecturer also reminded us how the changes that had historically taken thousands of years to occur were happening in the course of decades. So we're explaining the depth, the intensity of the problem which is coming up. Something which had taken thousands of years earlier is happening now in the course of decades, means hardly 10 years. And then I conclude. The last question was coming back, why you think it was interesting. Now this is my reason I think it was interesting. The lecture was becoming more and more interesting as it continued for almost 2 hours. Number one, that's my first reason. Second, presenting the facts and information on how we humans have gradually destroyed our planet because of our unabated greed to power over modern lives. This is my second reason. In fact, the lecture was quite worrisome for a native of a small island nation like me, which, according to the lecture, would submerge in the ocean because of the rise in the sea level by 2050. In fact, the threat of global warming is so real that even the former US Vice President traveled from one corner of the world to another in order to raise awareness about its negative impact. After following the lecture the entire time, I did not have even a shadow of doubt in my mind that climate change was and still is the biggest challenge to the existence of our planet. Now, this clearly showcases how one can speak continuously for 2, 3, 4 minutes on the question, which is one sample cue card question that you had to describe an interesting talk or lecture you have heard or attended to. So you have to make a beautiful story out of it. It could be real, it could be a lie, but something which you should be already prepared how to expand, what all will be there in that talk. Okay, so just now we talked about what was there in it. It talked about some worrisome aspects, it talked about some warnings which were there, some threats, and who was the speaker and what is the time by which there is a danger of people getting affected by this. major phenomena. Now, another sample cue card question which I want you all to practice until we meet next time. So this is kind of your homework. Talk about a new activity that you recently discovered and what you should say. Number 1, what activity it is, why you took part in it, how did you find about it, and share your feelings about this experience. So when you are talking about that activity you recently discovered, it could be something which is related to physical activity, it could be some meditative activity, it could be playing a golf, playing badminton, or learning Casio or piano. So you're talking about that activity, why you took part, it could be some races, some competitions you have taken part, how did you find about it, and you have to share your experience and feelings. So in this manner what you're doing, you're actually practicing cue cards. So I hope you all have enjoyed today's class, and thank you so much, and we meet again tomorrow.